Hi, I'm Bridget Owens, tarot reader and tarot artist, and today, instead of talking about a card, I wanted to talk about why I think tarot is not best used as a way to tell the future. For those of you who follow me on social media, who read my blog, or watch these videos, you already know that I recommend tarot as a self-development tool, to use it as prompts for journaling or altar making or other activities, to use tarot reading more as a sort of life coach than a way to tell the future. And today I'm going to go through the top 5 reasons why I recommend that use and not as a traditional fortune-telling divination tool. Now, some of the reasons that I may talk about today might conflict with what you believe, and that's fine. Every tarot reader, every practitioner of whatever sort of metaphysical art you can think of, everybody has their own approach to it, and this is mine. The first really big reason why I don't recommend using tarot cards as a way to see the future is that I don't believe that there is a set future to see. So tarot cards can, and all divination methodologies can see potentials, but they can't see definites, because I don't believe that there really are any. The thing is about, our own personal power is that we have the power to change ourselves, to change the way we think, the way we act, the decisions that we make, and those have effects on the world around us. But the effects that they have can be unpredictable, and that's primarily because we can't directly control the decisions and actions of the people and other forces that surround us. So knowing the future is really difficult, because if we change, we can change our behaviors, and that can have effects on what goes on around us. And that's, I believe, the primary sort of function of divination methods. They show us what could be, they show us the path that we are on, but they don't show us a definite future. It's like having a map or a GPS rather than like, a movie kind of crystal ball. And kind of a good example of what I mean by this is, there are other ways to see the future. For instance, science can predict things that are going to happen, like climate change. We know that pattern is happening. We can see the data, we can see the shifts, we know what we're doing to cause certain changes. We can't predict for sure where we will be in the future. We can say, if we don't change, this is where we are likely to end up, but there's no definite there. All sorts of decisions have to be made between now and whatever point in the future that lead us there. So we can predict likelihoods, but there is no definite. The second reason is that foresight of the future doesn't give us the whole picture. We lack a lot of details, and especially details about the consequences of whatever changes we might make in reaction to knowing those things. So, for instance, if I'm driving through town, and if somehow I was to get, sort of psychic information that a car was about to pull out in front of me, I would probably assume that would mean that I was about to get into an accident, and I might put on the brakes early. I might turn off the road. I might slam on my brakes. I might change lanes. I don't know. Whatever it is that I need to do to sort of avoid hitting the car that's going to pull out in front of me. However, there's no way to know whether by not getting into that wreck, does somebody else get into that wreck? Might it have not been a wreck? It might have been a near thing that might have stopped both of us from moving on to some sort of bigger catastrophe. Like maybe if I don't almost hit that car, that pulls out in front of me. That car goes ahead and pulls out in front of me, crosses the intersection, and gets hit by a train. I mean, it's an extreme thing, but we see one bit and we don't see the whole picture. And when we do get little bits of information in a tarot reading, when I do see things, because I do now and then have cards come up and I'll go, I think this situation is about to arise. Knowing that doesn't give you enough information to know exactly how you're supposed to react. What is the best way, what is not the best way to react. It doesn't give you all of the facts that you need to know. So that little bit of foresight is really unhelpful. The third reason, and this is a big one, is that if you think about it, human beings are really bad at making decisions, and we're not any better when we know more information. Seeing what might be coming down the path makes us feel like we're more prepared, like we're maybe making more informed choices. But in reality, our ego and our assumptions about the world and all sorts of personal baggage tend to really get in the way of using that information in a pragmatic manner, a really honest manner, even if that information is really, really valuable, which we've already talked about how it's probably not. For instance, a personal example here. A little over a decade ago, I opened a business. What I, of course, not having, one of those movie crystal balls, didn't realize is that soon after, within the year of opening this business, there would be a huge weather event, a huge ice storm that pretty much immobilized the city for more than a week. The effects lasted a very long time and had a serious impact on the local economy. Also didn't realize that a major construction project was about to take place, which involved tearing up the entire street in front of my store, laying new sewer pipes, and real major disruptions to the infrastructure around where my store was. Didn't know that was coming, and also didn't foresee the housing crisis and the recession that happened around that time as well. And for a long time, I really liked to believe, and I told myself that was part of why my business failed, that was maybe the biggest part of why my business failed, that I didn't know that those things were going to happen. And after I had shut down my business, part of me liked to believe that if I had known all of those things were going to happen, I would never have opened the business in the first place. Or I would have planned better, and I would have had contingency plans for those things. But knowing myself better, now I can really look back and go, no, I would have told myself that all of those things were, that I could overcome those, that I would have taken that risk anyway. I would have made all the same or similar decisions, and I probably still would have failed. Really, really likely that I still would have failed, because in the end, it wasn't those things that really sunk my business. I just let them be excuses for other bad decisions that I made. So we are not good at taking information as a human race. We are not good at taking that information and actually using it for our own benefit. So using tarot to tell us what's coming doesn't make us better decision makers at all. Reason number 4. Knowing the details of what might be happening to us in the future actually doesn't mitigate our risk. And I say that because I think a lot of people want the information about their future. They want tarot to tell them, they want psychics to tell them what's going to happen in their lives, because they believe that if they know these things, then the decisions that they make or the choices they make, the actions, their own personal actions, are less risky. That we will not make, we won't just be guessing about what's the best option. We'll have sort of not risk-free, but lower risk decision making, which is also not true. And to kind of explain why that's not true. If you think about people who engage in usually illegal activities that give them insight into the future because it helps them control the future, for instance, insider trading, people who know things about companies that allow them to buy and sell stocks in a way that is much lower risk than the stock market is supposed to be, are lowering their risk in the short term of losing money on those sales, but increases their risk in the long term because it means that they're usually engaging in some sort of illegal or unwise thing, and they're risking everything to gain small advantages. And even though it's not illegal to, have your tarot cards read or go to a psychic or whatever and find out details about what's coming in your life, those tiny details only mitigate risk in the short term. So they might tell you what's a better decision to make about some small thing, whether to ask this person out or whether to take this job or whatever, but it doesn't mitigate larger risk. And to make any sort of significant reduction in the risk of your decision making, you'd have to do that for every single decision you ever make, which brings us to point 5. The fifth and final reason why I don't recommend using tarot primarily as a way to see into your future is that having all of that data, first of all, it's not just a big map to what's going to happen because of all of the other things that I've talked about. Namely, number 1, the future's not set. So it requires us, if we really want to use divination information as a way to mitigate risk, make better decisions, give us foresight so we avoid disasters, all of that stuff. It means that every decision we make, every little choice that we have, every crossroads in our life, we have to go back to the cards, we have to go back to the psychic and ask for that information all over again. So we never become good decision makers. We become entirely reliant on something else to tell us how to live our lives, and we stop living them. I think anybody who does tarot readings or any sort of divination practice or even life coaches, that kind of thing, have seen people who are absolutely dependent on the advice of others and the guidance of something else to guide them through their life. And those people completely miss the experience of living, which is naturally risky, which naturally involves us doing things that we don't have a guaranteed outcome for, because that's how we grow. So being reliant on any divinatory practice to tell your future, to guide what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, robs you of that experience which causes you to grow, which is why I push the opposite. Using tarot as a way to encourage growth and to facilitate that growth and to guide it, to show you where maybe you need the most growth, is a much better use of it. Thank you for tuning into the weekly video. As always, more information and guidance and access to the Feminist Tarot and Tarot Readers Resource Workbook can be found at bridgetowens.com.